we met through LinkedIn, of course, and we are pretty sure it was because of the hashtag INTJ, and we both are that Myers-Briggs personality type. So we clicked, and we've been a huge support system for each other. So I'm super appreciative of him. And Joe can
Our
tell us,
pod.
right?
I'm just
No
kidding.
pods.
Don't do
We're
it.
over that. So could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, please?
Yes. So I was furloughed from my current role in April. And before that, I had started a business many years ago, just kind of a sole proprietorship that just sat there dormant doing nothing. I decided to get into resume writing because that's what I did professionally. But over the last 2 years, I've been obsessed with, as you know, the Myers-Briggs type indicator and how it can help people and help teams and things like that. So even more recently, I've almost fully transitioned into trying to become a MBTI consultant, but doing a lot of pro bono stuff, but have recently gotten into getting paid work. So I think that's kind of like my calling there. People kind of say like MBTI, it's like astrology. It's, it's just like, what color are you? What element are you? And I kind of say that's not really what it's about. There's a really good quote that I found from Galilei. He said, you cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself. And I was like, that's exactly what MBTI is. It's like people have things within them that they've never been able to articulate to themselves. And once you hear yourself like explain to yourself, it's like, wow, I didn't ever realize that was my issue. Or I never realized I'm really good at that, but I'm actually lacking over here. And if I put enough effort into it, I can improve myself and become what's called like a well-rounded type, or it's called type development. You and I have kind of talked about that, where we're really bad here, but if we focus over here, we're actually, we can develop ourselves a lot better. And I guess going in a circle here is that I believe that you can apply it to both personal issues and then also in the workplace, kind of much like you're doing, where you're kind of on the culture side. You can kind of combine MBTI and culture together to, you don't have to do the things that corporations do where they fire people. You can maybe work with them or maybe have a better onboarding process, or you don't have to move people. You don't have to get people off teams. You can maybe just change the order of, of hierarchy. Instead of just being, that guy's an idiot, he's so stupid, like he doesn't get me. It's like, well, maybe you're the issue and you can work on some things yourself. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you for letting us understand that quote from Galileo was perfect. Like, I'm so glad that you found that, because it even hit me in the soul, and I'm a huge Myers-Briggs believer. So I think that should help people, because I'm all about self-awareness. I preach about that all the time. So I think it's a great segue. So I wanted to ask, what the biggest benefit of knowing your Myers-Briggs personality type?
I would say that it's identifying your blind spots. I kind of mentioned the articulating who you are in a way that you've never heard it defined. Some people have this natural tendency to go, nope, that's not me, that's stupid. But the ones that are interested in are kind of pursuing that path of personal development will go, actually, you're right. And now that I've heard it out loud, now you've given me the tools to go fix the things that I need to work on. So I would say everyone has their strengths, and those are the things that they just engage the world with every day. That's important, but where you're missing is how you'll finally figure out, like, why do I always have that problem with my spouse or my colleague or my boss? Now it's identified. Now we can work on it. And I've had people just go, wow, Joe, like, I'm obsessed with MBTI now that you've brought this to me. And that's a good feeling. And that's where you want people to go and not reject it out of hand. It's funny, the types that reject it out of hand are the ones that need it the most and are revealing their type to me. So I think that's kind of funny. But yes, to answer your question, identifying your blind spots in your personal life, romantic life, and in your corporate life are the best of the best ways to fix some of the problems you have. And that's why I enjoy using MBTI. There's a lot more I have here to go over, and I'm sure we'll kind of get into it. But I actually, because I kind of mentioned, you're a culture consultant, you work with a lot of corporations and kind of fix all the plethora of things they have going wrong with them. Now we have COVID. Now there's a whole nother area of things that they have to fix. Both of us being INTJs, thinking, judging types, we're solutions oriented. can you give us right now some concrete things that if you're going to be consulting a leader, executive, what are 3 things they can do right now to fix and improve their culture?
Good question. Put me on the spot, man. I think that something I would tell a leader right now, especially during this whole COVID situation, there's a lot of remote work going on, that one of the first things they need to do is have 360-degree feedback, in the sense that ask your employees, how can I help you right now? How can I be a better leader for you right now? And just that question alone is going to take an employee back, like, you actually care what I think about how you're doing things?
Mm-hmm.
So
So are you a servant? You believe in servant-based leadership, SBL, all that stuff? Is that kind of how a leader should be?
I'm kind of up in the air about that, because I'm a big believer of, I will never call myself a leader. I only reserve that right for someone to call me one. So
That's a hot take. Okay.
right. Like, I know there's a lot of people, I'm not, dogging anybody, but I just don't feel like it's appropriate for me to be like, I'm a leader. I just feel it comes off a bit, ugh,
Yeah.
some
So it's
way.
like you only become a leader once someone names you. Can't proclaim yourself a leader unless
Right.
someone gives you that mantle. Okay. I feel like there's a lot of examples in history of people that were like, oh, I guess just became the leader because they put me there and they said, like, you naturally have that ability. Side question, can everyone be a leader, or are there only certain people that really should be in leadership?
I am of the belief of the big man theory, which is a leadership theory that you're born with certain, innate traits. And I do feel like some people are born with more alpha traits. And there's a difference between fake alphas and real alphas,
Oh boy. Okay.
which is a whole nother, subject and rabbit hole. But I do feel that it's okay for some people to just be great followers. You don't have to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
You're not better because you're a leader. It's just everyone has a place in life, and not everyone is meant to be a leader. They don't have the qualities that are needed to be a leader. So
Yeah, and you can be a corporate leader or not be a corporate leader, but also be like the man of the house. Like, I lead at home, but at work I'm not the leader. And like, I think for some people it might be hard to give that up, where it's
Right.
like, well, I'm the leader everywhere. It's like, well, maybe that, there's some ego driven things going on there. But so you were saying the first thing was do the 360 feedback, or what can I do to serve you? How can I be a better leader? What am I lacking? What would be number 2?
I would say, one of the things I've been talking about a lot lately is how businesses right now can take their culture that they had, maybe while they were physically at work, and now, taking it into the remote world. And it's kind of been a hard transition for some. And one of the things I suggest is refocusing on what the mission of the company is. Because regardless whether you're in a physical location or at home doing your thing, the mission of the company is still there. And so having leaders remind people, hey, I know everything's kind of crazy right now, and we're getting through it together, but let's focus on the mission. This is what it is. So that's, I feel like, another important thing. The next thing would be continuously reiterating the values of the company, because some people don't even know what they are. Some people don't even have them. But if you do have them, they're completely pointless if they're not utilized and mission driven.
Mm-hmm.
So just focusing on those, I feel, are the important 3 things.
Okay, that's excellent. Question while you were talking that I really wanted to bring up, which was, culture is a vague word, and I feel like there are a lot of people that define culture by the things that they offer in terms of amenities. Like, oh, we have the most fun culture, which I've come from that, and it does actually keep, if like in a sales org or a very like high pressure quota driven organization, the amenities that they bring, like, unlimited coffee, snacks, ping pong, beanbag chairs, all the kind of startup vibe that actually keeps people there, that if they didn't have those, they would easily leave, and it actually keeps people underpaid, which is kind of the cynical thing of it's like, it's such a fun place to be. I don't really care. I'm not making any money. But how do you define culture? Is it like an amalgamation of like what they offer as amenities, the benefits, the support system, or is it like a very specific, this is what culture is to me?
This might sound a bit hippie-ish. I feel like culture is a vibe that can be felt. Like in it, like you said, those amenities like Google, they have like all these different things, and that's great. But I feel like that's not as much about culture as it is just like employee engagement. Like it keeps the people going,
Yeah,
like it's an
gotcha.
incentive to stay. But culture is more um, when like for instance, an aerospace company like Virgin Galactic right now, they're doing all that crazy stuff, getting into space, and it's super exciting. And the vibe there, because I went to Virgin Orbit for an interview a while back, and it was super. You could feel the energy in there. Everyone's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do things and put things in space, woo!" And like it was innovative. It was, Richard Branson is like one of my heroes for like
Sure,
career
of
purposes
course.
anyway. And he literally will. I had friends that work there, and he will just come randomly and just be like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" They'll look up, and he's just right there talking to them. And so again, I'm always about, the culture comes from the top.
Right.
He is making a comfortable environment for everyone to stay innovative, stay positive, and just like he has molded this amazing culture. And that's why I feel it's a feeling, because I literally walked into that, Virgin Orbit place, and I felt high energy. I was like, this feels good. Um, that's why.
Interesting. And I feel like I get that. I've been there before. Like that, just that buzzing feeling. Like everyone's just feels like they're working together. Everyone's in unison. We're all going towards the same direction.
Mhm.
Now, as a leader, and I guess there could be some like MBTI esque qualities there that allow you to create that buzz. Because I'm also someone that believes that everything from culture to like your nation or like to your house, there's like it's led by like a certain central figure or a central like authority that gives people motivation, energy, and enthusiasm. So is there you're saying there's innate abilities that people have that just people are naturally drawn to them, both in like they affirm people, but they also can make tough decisions and get things done. So it's a very special blend of um, servant-based leadership, but also like I can get things done as needed and I can make tough decisions. So I guess I'm saying, how do you craft that? Is that something that you as because I know you're a cultural consultant, but is some of what you do or could you do be like more executive coaching where like, the big man theory, like you said, so it's like, can you coach the executive to kind of craft that feeling when you walk in or someone walks in to interview? It's like, I can create this. I can help them create that. Is that something that you're aiming for?
Definitely,
Okay.
I do ask or offer to my clients a leadership program. I'm partnered with a resilience building leadership program, and I've noticed in the civilian world that there's a lack of initial supervisor training or just leadership training, period.
Hmm.
And I was very thrown back by that after getting out of the military, because we had multiple leadership training courses that were a huge deal for each rank that you were to make. And so when I got to the civilian world and I met all these people who had no training on being a supervisor and or leader, I was just like, wow. So, and some of these executives haven't either.
Hmm.
And, it's not their fault. However, I'm offering them this ability to like, hey, here is some leadership training. If you like it after you do it, then it's possible you might want to give this to your employees. It's an incentive. They get a certification, and most importantly, you reap all the benefits from
Hmm.
them getting this training.
You like
Which
it anyways. The person that I think there's a level of well, like going back to ego, it's like, well, I don't really want to bring in a coach or a consultant because that makes me look weak, and
Right.
I think that's the attitude that exists, especially going back to MBTI in an STJ culture, which is all about like strength, projecting strength, bottom line numbers, logic, pragmatism, that sort of thing, where we lose the like, well, maybe we should incorporate a little bit more of that feeling function into corporate America, because even though you might feel like emasculated in your mind, it's going to reap better rewards going forward, and having employee retention. Because after a while, dude, you're the problem. It's not like all these idiots we keep hiring. It's really, you've got to
Mm-hmm.
work on your thing. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 1000%. That's why, I really dig our friendship because, whether, professional and or otherwise, just because, we're on the same page about that. We understand that, you know, executives, people at the top need to have the self-awareness to be like, maybe it's me. And if it is me, let me get the tools in place to fix it so that I can help it, this entire culture, the rest of the business, because something's not working. And it's about time I start looking at myself instead of, deflecting all the issues onto everyone else. If there's a retention issue that looks like a revolving door, maybe you should start looking inward.
Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's like cutthroat sales, man." You know how it is. It's retention, or it's churn and burn, and people just attrit out of the company pretty quickly. But there are also really good sales orgs that have great retention, even though they have tough numbers and they have big competitors. So something's going right there, and you and I both agree it's a top down approach. I like the whole like fish rots from the head down. It's like, yeah, I mean, if your leader is corrupt, it doesn't matter if you have the most killer savage salesperson out there, they're gonna leave, and everyone knows you leave your boss. So it all starts there. But the problem is there's a lot of ego there as well. So someone like yourself that can kind of get in there and show value is going to be highly sought after. And of course, then it's just, you get the referrals, and then, everyone's using you, and, you have your own playbook that it'll be the, the Lenhart playbook or something like that.
Yeah, right back at you with it.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to create my own Myers-Briggs assessment, because I think Carl Jung did a pretty good job of that back in the 20s. But I have seen people do their own kind of side branch off. Like, it's Carl Jung, but it's like Carl Jung on steroids or something like that, which I hate that phrase. But you would, it'd be cool to develop your own model. Do you have your own model, or is that something you're in the process of creating?
It's definitely it's in the works, I would say, because I continuously keep learning more and more with each client that I get. So I pivot each time, oh, I want to come. So it's continuously
and you get the feedback.
Evolving. Yeah.
And you ask, because I know that you ask, just give it to me, as terrible as it might be. Just tell me what I did wrong, and then I want to work on it. And that is just for everyone's all. That's a very INTJ quality, is like, we have high standards, but we're not, if the criticism is warranted and we validate you, then please give us the criticism and we'll get better 100% the next time. Never happen again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so with, I want to talk a little bit about INTJ, even if it's a bit selfish. For everyone, he makes amazing videos about each type, and not just the types, but specifically what the I,
the IE axis
means. He explains each of the different what would you call those?
The functions
of your type. That, again, it's like I always talk about love languages. There's that book, 5 Love Languages, and it's not just about relationships. It can absolutely be towards business. And I feel like your type is kind of the same way. Once you learn yours, you can understand why maybe you don't vibe with an opposite type. Just like in a relationship with the 5 love languages, I love gifts, and I keep giving people gifts because that's what I love. And the other person doesn't receive love in that way. So it's the same thing. I feel like with some of these types, like if I am a boss and I keep doing a certain thing towards my employee one way, but that is I'm trying to influence you this way because this way works for me for influence, but maybe that is not how that personality, type receives influence.
Absolutely. I actually really like I just read the Love Languages book 2 months ago, and of all the, like I said, assessments and the sort of personality profiles, I think that one's actually the best. I think I'm a acts of service and gifts person. And I think those are very accurate. And much like Carl Jung, who was a clinical psychologist, he had patients and he spent thousands of hours over thousands of patients. He actually could talk from a doctor's point of view, not just an academic. And I forgot who wrote the love languages, but he was also a therapist. So you can say there's some validity there, whereas some of the things like the elements fire, water, wood. It's like, that's a little bit harder to grasp in the sense of like, oh,
Right.
you're wood. You get angry a lot. It's like, I don't know. So not
Yeah.
to bash any of those other things, but the love languages MBTI I really think are applicable to any aspect of your life where you're having troublesome issues.
Hmm.
And as long as you're semi willing to embrace it, then it's going to reap rewards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, I think people just, like you said, you can absolutely tell usually what personality type is the first to reject Myers-Briggs.
Right.
But um, do you feel like INTJ or a certain type is more apt? Well, who would you say is more apt to believe Myers-Briggs as opposed to not? If you were to
I
tell
would
us.
say the NF types. So that's the NF temperament is what David Kiersey called the idealists. So your INFJ, ENFJ, um, ENFP, and INFP. Those types seem to have because they're intuitive feelers. So they can conceptualize like, yeah, you know what, that all matches, and they're kind of on this journey throughout their life to discover themselves. So self-discovery is innate within them. So they're the type of people that have done all the assessments and they know what they are on everything. They're Enneagram, they know their disc profile, they know their strengths finders. So those types definitely, but the types that aren't are the SJ types, or the ESTJ or the ISTJ. Funny enough that as you go up in corporate America, you get all, so a study was done, 50% of all corporate executive or managers and up are of the SJ type, and then 90% of all C-level are STJ. So you really only get a very limited type that gets to the very top of corporate America. So you can see how if they're all at the top and they reject it, how there's going to be issues with hiring people that are outside your type. There's going to be
Mhm.
issues with just corporate messaging as it goes down the line, where, you're, if there's an incident, like a social incident or incident within the company, the way that you message can come across robotic sometimes if you're a certain type and without feeling. So the solution is getting people like either assistants or, board members who can kind of reel you in from a different type personality.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that before, so that's the nugget I'm gonna
Yeah, no, keep
file
that in your
away.
head. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can invoice you later for all that. It's no big
Thank
deal.
you. Thank you. So you offer Zoom consults or to get people to understand their personality type more. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I started that because I was doing resume writing, and then I was like, well, let's meet first, or let's do the MBTI assessment. I know who I'm working with, and then that branched into just doing MBTI consulting. It works really well. It's just it's hard to do a consultation just without actually meeting the people and looking at them and then kind of answering some of the, like, prodding some of the questions, because your unconscious self always wants to protect your conscious self. So the second you go, like, I got so much pushback from INTJs on YouTube and on LinkedIn where I was like, guys, INTJs aren't that good at details. Sometimes we miss things. They're like, no, Joe, I'm the most detailed person you've ever seen. I'm like, that's your unconscious telling you that there's no way I'm bad at that. So when you start to talk to people, you can see like where they're unconsciously having some bias. And
Mhm.
then you got to kind of be like, are you sure you're that? Because, and point out all the examples of where they messed up before. And then you can kind of get underneath there. But it takes a little bit more than like a 30-minute session to really help somebody. So I think it needs to be like repeated and talked about. And I like supplemental material. There's some really good people I refer to on YouTube that just are so good at explaining the nuances that you just can't deny it. I mean, if you're denying that you're a certain type and you're great at everything, then, um, you know,
We got a bigger
I'm going to
problem.
prescribe medication or something.
Narcissism.
Narcissism. I
Right.
wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, so
Oh my God, that's such a military thing for you to say. That's
I'm the
amazing.
best there is. I wake
I
up
don't
in the
know.
morning, I piss excellence.
Right, I don't know if you knew, but so I had a question for you. Just today, I read a comment on one of my posts, and it said that I made that poll about HR, and they were like, that was a really trolling, like you seem like a troll with the questions that you asked, and you just brought up prodding questions, and I
Mhm.
I don't know if it's me, just or my personality type, but I do feel like I ask questions that are directed and confrontational, but there's a reason I do said things.
Mhm.
but I don't know if that's just me, or do you feel like we kind of have, I think you
No,
might be that way as well.
INTJs are great trolls. Um, because we're really bad. One of our worst functions, one of the things that we will struggle with our entire life is the function called extroverted feeling, or it's written capital FE, extroverted feeling, which is taking into consideration the societal norms or the societal mores of things. So it's like we're constantly thinking a joke is going to hit really hard and it doesn't. And everyone's like, wow, that was inappropriate or that wasn't politically incorrect, because we're bad at thinking about the impact of our statements or our actions. So I don't think I actually really liked your poll. It's probably because I'm INTJ, but I understand from some people's point of view where they're like, that's way too direct. Like you could have had more tact. And that
Mhm.
is something that INTJs develop sort of after like their as they get into like their 30s and 40s, they start to realize, oh, all those jokes I thought were funny, all those things I did at work that no one liked, we need to develop that. So it makes sense for you in that poll. But I honestly, I think that I liked the poll, and I don't think there was any like nefarious means behind that.
Well, thank you. I feel
I
like
voted on it.
right? Like I have questions when I ask these questions, it's because, and like you said, even though maybe it might like lack tact, I am getting in my 30s now, so I do, mm, I absolutely am adjusting things as I mature, but I still,
Perfect. Let me interrupt. Perfect example. Elon Musk is the most classic example of a modern day INTJ.
yep.
If you follow his Twitter, he doesn't give an F what he says. He'll post like a random thought about something, or he'll just like confront medical wisdom on COVID, and it's like, oh, you didn't, did you? Or he'll call someone like pedo guy. You can edit that out, but he'll
Hmm.
call somebody something, and just like, I can't believe he did that. It doesn't he know his position? But as a underdeveloped part of his cognitive function, he probably is just like, I don't care how anyone takes this. I don't know.
Hmm.
I just thought of him.
It's like, no, and I'm glad you brought that up because I like, but hey, he's INTJ too.
Who,
There's
who
beauty
is
behind that.
who
Or
is?
that Elon Musk is
Oh, sorry.
that Elon Musk is an INTJ. I love people to know that because like, so if there's any personality traits that make you understand me more, but no, like I'm all like candor,
Mm-hmm,
however they
mm-hmm.
want to pronounce it. I feel is definitely an INTJ thing. Um, but like you said, as we age, we can get better at how we say things.
Yeah, and kind of the last thing I think we should say on that'd be interesting is that um, executives say I have an executive that I know personally who has admitted, like, I used to be a hard ass. I used to be, people used to cry every day. And as I got older, I realized like I had to temper myself in a certain way. And it was hard for him because he's an ESTJ. So you can help, I can help. It's sort of like, you know, I would say it's more of like a 720 cohesion. If I was going to say something, you and me working together, it's like the what's it called? That infinite diagram circle. Yeah, there it
Mm-hmm.
is. If you have MBTI, you have the culture part of it using you. I think it's just it's a dynamic duo that people are gonna definitely need at this very moment.
Absolutely. So I hope y'all are listening. Thank you so much, Joe, for being on with me. And this is going to be great. So thanks.